OCD. The numbers of magical numbers and OCD. My friend Denzel, PhD. It's a certain amount of superstitious thinking can be a harmless part of normal life. The popularity of yours books, tarot card readings, good luck charms, and psychics in our own society bears witness to this. However, we live in primitive societies where magic controls people's actions and decisions on an everyday basis. It is integrated into every life, regarded as a tool, and does not paralyze its users. In OCD, unfortunately, its usage and negative effects expand far beyond these ordinary limits. Beginning as a way to control anxiety brought on by obsessions, it gradually escapes the user's control, taking over their life, and actually generating greater anxiety than it was originally supposed to relieve.
There is currently no scientific explanation as to why some individuals tend to think magically as compared to having any other symptoms.
No one actually understands why anyone has his or her special type of obsessive concerns. Many of those with OCD are constantly bombarded with very strange and doubtful thoughts about harm coming to themselves and or others. These thoughts can be quite extreme. Their inner world of doubt seems out of the range of normal control. One other possible influence upon the development of magical thinking in OCD may be if an individual with OCD comes from a culture in which superstition and daily ritual plays a strong role. Growing up in such a background cannot, of course, cause OCD. However, I believe it can certainly help give someone at risk a push in the wrong direction if everyone at home is regularly practicing magical rituals. No one with OCD was ever made better by growing up in a superstitious environment.
Suffer from magical obsessions have a great need for control in the face of their extraordinary and unusual fears, but they quickly come to realize that ordinary type protective measures cannot help them. Their doubt is so overwhelming that the normal means of control simply don't apply in a magical obsessive world.
The most logical of scientific thinking usually cannot give them explanations or reassurance. OCD, after all, is formerly known as the doubting sickness.
I am fond of saying that if you had to sum up OCD in 2 words, they would be pathological doubt.
As in primitive times where people felt a need to control happenings in a world they couldn't explain, those with magical obsessions feel that they must therefore resort to something far beyond the ordinary. Only in this way can they have a sense of security and control.
What can supply this? The answer, of course, is magic. It appears to be their only possible alternative, and as we know, is something that comes rather easily to humans.
Superstition and magic create connections between things that, according to logic and the laws of science, don't connect within the real world.
How those supply this? The answer, of course, is magic. It appears to be their only possible alternative, and as we know, is something that comes rather easily to humans.
Superstition and magic create connections between things that, according to logic and the laws of science, don't connect within the real world. Numbers, words, and actions appear to control events in the present and future. Bad luck or good luck is spread by thought, by sight, by touch, or simply by association. Those with this type of OCD realize that their behaviors are unrealistic and sound crazy to others, but they use them anyway to relieve their anxiety. Because magic figures into a fair proportion of OCD and can sound so irrational, it is most likely the reason that so many sufferers have been misdiagnosed over the years as having schizophrenia. Like the magical compulsions of the magical variety can include all sorts of superstitious and ritualistic behaviors. These different magical compulsions all have in common with each other with ancient magic, or that they are performed for the purpose of preventing bad events in advance, or for undoing events or thoughts which have already occurred. One other similarity to other types of magic is that often the steps of the compulsive ritual must be kept rigidly pure, perfect, and cannot vary, or else they will not work. Additionally, rituals must be performed while in the correct destroying us in terms of understanding the patterns of our universe. There is a certain amount of truth to this, but not in the sense that numbers can somehow be magically manipulated. Get the steps in the wrong order, forget to do something, or an unpleasant obsession or image intrudes during the ritual, thus contaminating and destroying the magic. Even if an individual's obsessions allow them to redo botched rituals, they may still get a fair proportion of them wrong. This, of course, can lead to
It was based upon the concept that the universe is composed of mathematical patterns, and that all things can be expressed as numbers that connect to these patterns. Pythagoras himself believed that the entire universe could be expressed numerically. Numerologists and magicians have always believed that every number has a special vibration. Our numbers have been used over the centuries for forecasting the future, also known as divination. And in magic practices, ancient numerologists assigned numbers to letters of their alphabets, and through them were able to tell people's futures or even find hidden magical meanings in the Bible and other written works, as if these were written in some type of special code. In different cultures, numbers may have the power to give magical control, and some may also be taboo, such as 13 or 666. Many of the rules for numbers seen in numerology and magic are also seen in OCD. Some of these rules are common to many sufferers. 13 and 666 are bad. Even numbers are good. Odd numbers are bad. And some are particular only to specific individuals. Sometimes multiples of bad numbers are also bad, or even worse than the original bad number, where some of a multiple's power to do harm seems to increase with its size. Undoing rituals are quite common when magical number obsessions are present. For instance, bad numbers are usually cancelled out by good numbers, or simply by counting very low, or looking at higher numbers. In the case of some sufferers, if they're reading a book and stop reading on a bad numbered page, they must keep reading until they can stop on a good numbered page. I can't tell you how many patients I have had who had to turn their TVs or radios on or off on a particular numbered station. Bad numbers usually tend to appear just with 6 individuals. Sometimes multiples of bad numbers are also bad, or even worse than the original bad number. For some, a multiple's power to do harm seems to increase with its size. Undoing rituals are quite common where magical number obsessions are present. For instance, bad numbers are usually cancelled out by good numbers, or simply by counting to, thinking of or looking at higher numbers. In the case of some sufferers, if they're reading a book and stop reading on a bad numbered page, they must keep reading until they can stop on a good numbered page. I can't tell you how many patients I have had who had to turn their TVs or radios on or off on a particular numbered channel or station. As mentioned earlier, some magical behaviors often have to be performed a special number of times, or on special dates that are seen to have magical significance. Midnight, noon, or the first or last days of the month or year are the most common times to figure into these rituals. Certain times of day, when they appear on a clock, can also be lucky or unlucky, depending upon which numbers a person's obsessions fasten onto. Actually, the invention of the digital clock has contributed quite a lot to these types of obsessions and compulsions. Some sufferers cannot act or speak when particular numbers come up on a clock or a wristwatch. Those with magical touching rituals frequently incorporate numbers into their behavior and have to touch certain objects a special number of times in order for them to be effective. The making of special mental arrangements of things such as numbers, information, words, names, and special images makes up another subtype of magical ritual as a mental compulsion. This type of behavior is generally not visible to others, yet it can be as serious and agonizing as any other OC symptom. It was protect for all problems down in Oslo. Some rituals can be run as complicated and it is easy to lose track of what one has been doing. These uses for numbers can include counting all hand washing to make sure that it was done for a long enough time period to certify that the contamination had taken place with the performing touching rituals to help the sufferer to be certain that they had touched the particular object and touched the correct number of times. Or performing stunning rituals such as walking through doors or over thresholds to make certain that the sufferer has gone back and forth the right number of times. Down to remedy magical obsessions and compulsions, I recommend as usual the two-pronged approach of medication plus behavioral therapy. I can't tell you everything there is to know about this broad subject in this article, but I can give you a brief rundown. As far as medications go, there are some ranges of detection such as anaphylaxis, Prozac, Roxy, Acceptance, obsessive thoughts and compulsions sufficiently to often interrupt detailed therapy helps to overcome the sufferer will rest of the problem. This is not to say that one cannot be successful without medication, however it does improve your chances quite a bit. On the other hand, that the medication alone usually isn't sufficient to do the job entirely. Behavioral therapy means specifically exposure and response prevention (ENRP). The person in treatment is gradually encouraged to put themselves in a position for bad luck or harm to occur, and then is discouraged from carrying out the avoidance of a magical ritual. It's not that magical thinkers totally believe in their magic. They don't. They do, however, experience serious doubts and need encouragement to take the risk necessary to see that their beliefs aren't justified. The great problems of OCD is that these beliefs are never challenged, which is them producing things that the person supported to get any fear you adapt to learn about your own will. For the people that anxiety prevention is not simply stupid, nothing was even if they did nothing in response to these sessions. The fact is that you really only care about excessive fear, simple fears, inferiority, OCD is sessions with an assisted compulsion sufferers granted its limited tolerance to what they fear until it gradually suffers branches from up the tolerance to what they fear until it can no longer have any impact on them.
I like to tell my patients that you can't be bored and scared at the same time. In therapy, a listing or hierarchy is created in which all feared situations are ranked in order, usually on a 1 to 10 or a 0 to 100 scale. This scale is then used in the creation of homework assignments. As patients carry out therapy assignments, they work their way up the scale, gradually tackling more and more difficult items via homework assignments, or working with a therapist in the office or on field trips. No one is ever forced to do anything, and nothing is thrown at them by surprise. Exposure to obsessive thoughts may be accomplished via taped presentations, writing assignments, or selected readings. I have found the exposure tapes to be of particular value. They tell the sufferer in gradually increasing doses that the harm they fear really will occur, and that there is no escape. They are used several times per day and increased in difficulty as the listener's anxiety decreases with presentations. Despite what you may have heard from various sources, obsessions can be as effectively treated as compulsions. It all hinges on a well-designed treatment. Exposure can take place on the mental level just as easily as in the physical world. Some people require repeated exposures to feared situations, and some may require only one in this latter case. It is almost as if by finally facing the fear, the sufferer is breaking a spell. they do not completely cease. In uncomplicated cases, the process described above should take anywhere from 6 to 12 months, with individuals who habituate after only a few exposures to each feared situation. The process may even be more rapid. In any case, the technology of treatment exists, and there is no reason for anyone to suffer with magical obsessions or any other symptom of OCD at this point in time. If you have been sitting around hesitating or procrastinating, make every effort to seek help now. PhD, is a licensed psychologist who has specialized in the treatment of OCD and related disorders since 1982. He is the executive director of Western Psychological Services in Huntington, Long Island, New York, a private treatment group specializing in OCD and obsessive-compulsive related problems, and is a founding member of the OCF Science Advisory Board. Frank can be found on his website, Dr. Pinzel.